psychologist, then let this be your guide. With this podcast at your side, you'll be on your way to being qualified. It's the Aspiring Psychologist Podcast with Dr. Marianne and Trent.
Welcome along to the Aspiring Psychologist Podcast. Let's think today about presentations. Now, presentations are something which can be a big part of your journey, not only as an aspiring psychologist, but as a qualified psychologist too. So when I was working in the NHS most recently, we would present, information at multidisciplinary team meetings about clients or, situations that we were working with. And it's important that you're able to get your information across concisely and in a way that helps the audience to, understand what it is you're telling them and why, what the outcomes would be. So it can be useful when we're doing case discussions in that way to perhaps think about opening up with what you're looking for from this situation. This can also be useful for supervision as well. So certainly as my career has advanced, you learn to use supervision for helping stuckness. There might be a specific question that you want to answer from supervision. So I would often, begin my presentation, my communication with what I'm looking to gain. So, I'm really hoping that, out of today, the outcome would be that I find a way to work through this problem that feels a bit stuck. So I'd welcome your opinion on why this stuckness might have cropped up, and what I and we can do with the client to help shift that and to have a different outcome. The same is true in MDT meetings as well. So if I want something specific, if I want, for example, a referral to psychiatry, or I would like another member of the MDT to think about assessing them, then I'm beginning my communication with that, so that as people are listening to what I'm saying, they can be weighing up for themselves whether they think that is a useful intervention, a useful next step. So it's always useful to have that, the direction of travel, the intended destination as you're starting it. And other types of presentations, of course, will include something a bit more PowerPointy, or a bit more Canva-y. I much prefer Canva. Canva is so whizzy. If you've not checked out Canva yet, then please do. Grab a link in my show notes. Okay, so why might you need to do a presentation as an aspiring psychologist, I hear you cry? Well, I have had a number of times when I've been called to interview, I have been asked to prepare a presentation. And for some of you, that may leave you, quaking in your boots and just thinking, no, I hate presentations. So what I'm hoping that we get out of today is to help you feel more confident, both in putting together your presentation, practicing it, and then, smashing it out the park when you give it. I'm a little bit outside normal limits because I actually really enjoy a presentation, which is perhaps why I've ended up doing podcasts and things, because I don't mind speaking, If you're in a group exercise and someone says, so who's going to feed back to the group? I'm like, I'll do it. I'm all right with that. People are like, phew. oh, we've got Marianne in the group, she doesn't mind speaking. But there's, of course, something empowering about encouraging yourself to do things that might feel a little bit uncomfortable, feeling the burn and doing it anyway. So let me help inspire you to be able to do presentations yourself, so that you don't always have to ask the chatty one in the group to help support you with that. So the first of my techniques is we're going to just put a little bit of structure together when we're creating the presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell people what we're going to tell them before we then tell them it. So the first strategy is tell them what you're going to tell them. Obviously not in full detail, but you're just giving a little bit of structure. Even if it's a 10-minute presentation, I'm taking people through what we're going to do. So if I was going to give you, the plan for today's podcast episode, I'd be saying, welcome along to this session on thinking about optimizing your presentations. I'm just going to break down the structure of what to expect from what we're going to achieve within our time together. So the way that that's going to look is I'm going to share with you three sections, three top tips to be able to, supercharge what you're doing and get the maximum benefit from it. And then there's going to be, there'll be an opportunity for questions. I'm then going to summarise what we've spoken about, think about the main take-home learning points, and then there will be an opportunity for questions at the end. So I hope you'll find this a really useful overview. Now, of course, as a one-way communication device of a podcast, I'm not going to be able to get your feedback on whether this was useful, but that's the kind of thing I'd be saying in a presentation situation for real. So, we're telling them what we're going to tell them. And for the next two tips, I'm going to come back to you just after this break. Hope you find it useful. If
you're looking to become a psychologist, then let this be your guide, filled with lessons and experience that will help you get qualified. Right here in this book, it's the Clinical Psychologist Collective. It's the Clinical Psychologist Collective.
I'm Jo, and I work as an assistant practitioner in a CAMS service in Lancashire. I bought and read Marianne's book, The Clinical Psychologist Collective, to accompany me while completing the clinical psychology training application. It proved to be really good company. I found it sparked ideas of how to build experience and skills, but more than that, it offered the chance to get lost in people's stories. It provided a timely reminder not to get so caught up in an end goal and to value and enjoy each job we fulfill along the way. Because the work we do now is important and matters to those we sit alongside, as well as ourselves. It also gave the reassurance that there are eclectic routes into clinical psychology, which is important for me as someone who's had a meandering journey and not a typical route to the profession. I wholeheartedly recommend the book for both personal and professional reasons. Be prepared to put evening tasks on hold for a while though, because once you've started reading, it's tough to put it down.
To become a psychologist, then let this be your guide, filled with lessons and experience that will help you get qualified. So come and take a look. It's right here in this book. It's the Clinical Psychologist Collective. It's the Clinical Psychologist Collective.
Okay, welcome back. So we covered before the break, we covered our first top tip for the structure of our presentations. And that was we're going to tell them what we're going to tell them. The second top tip is that we are then going to tell them. We're going to tell them the stuff that we've told them we're going to tell them. This is a lot of telling, isn't it? So I often think the best way to do this is not by putting all the information on every slide. That is the way to lose me. If you are standing in front of me reading what is on the slide, then I am going to be busy doing other stuff in my mind because I've already read it probably before you've started even talking. So I've gained my important points, and it feels like there's less need to listen to what you're saying. So when you're structuring any visual aids with your presentation, I would make them look engaging. I would have a key word or two on there, if only to aid your memory of what you're going to say, but do not put all the content in the slides and do not read from the slides, because that is going to lead to a zoned out audience, especially in these Zoom times that we've got. So if you're doing it via Zoom, you're going to have people in the background playing on their iPads whilst listening to you. And we want you to be communicating to your audience really well. We want people to be really in tune and engage with what you're saying, and really wanting to be on board to learn what you're saying. So as you're talking, you might want to use any relevant references to help you back up your points, to demonstrate your theory. I often think, even if it is, for example, a presentation where you're talking about, your clinical suitability for a role. So you might be talking about some work that you did with a client. I often think it's still useful to drop in the odd reference here and there, especially because you're striving to be an academic. It shows that you are, well versed in linking theory and practice. So that's another useful thing. If it is linked to some outcomes that you did, it can be useful to think about, putting together some graphs that demonstrate your progress with the client, demonstrate the effectiveness of whatever the intervention that you're discussing is. I'm a big fan of a beautiful presentation theme. So I used to have my go-to presentation theme for PowerPoint, but yeah, it's just a whole lot more beautiful and easier to create in Canva, and you can still download as a PowerPoint from Canva if you need to, or you can just download it as PDF. So just check out Canva if you haven't already. Like I said, there's a link in the comments. It is ace. It's going to change your world. You can also put videos in there as well if you wanted to add snippets or jingles. I love a jingle. Thinking about engaging your audience and thinking about giving them something to look at, something to listen to, which might be you, or it might be some other stuff that you've got going on. Just trying to get as many of those senses activated, as you can, to get them as engaged as possible. So we've told them what we're going to tell them, and then we've told them the stuff, we've done it, we've told them it, and then the final point is we're going to tell them what we've told them. We're going to just briefly summarize what we've spoken about, and if there was any question for the presentation, so demonstrate how you used an intervention to alleviate the distress of a client you worked with, then that's the point where I'm going to be really drawing their attention to the changes, so answering the question that you've been asked. Now, of course, if there is a specific question, then you might well pepper the appropriate words throughout when you're telling them as well, from the middle section. But this summary is where you're demonstrating that you're answering the question, and you're doing it in a succinct time balanced way that hopefully is enthusiastic and that not too anxious as a presentation style to watch. So I think it can be really useful to have a practice by yourself in an empty room with a timer on, just to check how you're doing for time. And it can also be useful if it's a really important presentation. It can also be useful to practice that with someone else in the room so that you get used to people, hearing the words as they come out of your mouth. You might, if that feels a bit too exposing or you haven't got someone to ask, you might find it helpful to record it on Zoom so that you can see what it is like, to take away some of that eek moments that you might have about, talking in public, standing up. So if you're going to be actually doing this presentation in person, it might be useful to just think about what you're going to be wearing, check that you're going to be comfortable, check that whatever you're wearing is going to help you bring your A game. It's going to help you, like we said about the millionaire, the millionaire interview experience. We want to help you think that things are going well. So your hair is looking like on point, you're feeling good, because we don't want any reasons to be feeling, like we're exposed or vulnerable at that moment. So just making sure that you're feeling, good enough, ideally, about the situation that you're in when you are giving that presentation. So it is short and sweet from us today, but this is a special request. Someone had asked me to cover presentations and how they're important and how we can optimize and maximize them. So if you have got any specific requests, then check out the link in the show notes for how you can get in contact to nominate any podcast topics, because I want to make sure that this podcast is really useful for you, whatever stage of your career you are at. Thank you so much for listening. Please do come and connect with me on my socials. LinkedIn, Dr. Marianne Trent. YouTube, Good Thinking Psychological Services. Facebook, Good Thinking Psychological Services. Twitter, Good Thinking PS1. And Instagram, Dr. Marianne Trent. Thank you again for being part of my world and for listening right to the end. We've just got a little bit coming up about the Compassionate Q&A series, and then you can enjoy the jingle. Take care. And like I said, if you'd like to get involved with your own story for the Aspiring Psychologist Collective, then do check out the details in the show notes for how you can request more information. But if you head to my website, which is goodthinkingpsychology.co.uk, and then head to my books, there will be information there for you.
Being well supported during any interview season is so important. I have therefore planned some compassionate question and answer support sessions for you. You are absolutely welcome to come along to all of them, some of them, none of them. No need to book, and here are the dates for you. Monday the 28th of February from 7:30 p.m, Monday the 21st of March, 7:30 p.m, Monday the 4th of April, 7:30 p.m, and Monday the 9th of May, 7:30 p.m. And they will all be live streaming via my socials, which includes Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn and Facebook. So you can absolutely pick your favourite platform, and they'll all be available on replay as well. Hope you find it so useful, and I will look forward to catching up with some of you then. Take care.
If you're looking to become a psychologist, then let this be your guide. With this podcast at your side, you'll be on your way to being qualified. It's the Aspiring Psychologist Podcast with Dr. Marianne Trent.